are the Ateam, and this is our first submission for the Curriculum Resource Project for EDF 5705. Just going around the room, I'm David.
Andrew.
Remy.
And Joey.
Okay, so we've all read the resources, the readings for this week, but in the interest of expedience, we've each assigned each other one article each, and we will discuss those and relate those back to the unit. Essentially, the central idea of this article is it essentially provides a framework through which primary school teachers can conduct research investigations in their class. What she's done here, it's the lemon battery experiment that we all did in primary school. So I like this article because it acts as a very brief introduction to the scientific method, which I think helps students. Personally, I didn't learn that until high school. It also stresses the importance of inquiry-based learning, which I think we can all agree every reading this week touched on, and we'll probably discuss that later. So in the interest of finding some other resources, I found a couple of books here. I found this Young Scientist Introducing Electricity book aimed at later primary school kids that actually runs the same experiment. And we have also the Oxford Big First Book of Science. It's sort of geared towards grade 1 and grade 2 kids. So what I like about these books is they complement the article well. Yeah, what did you guys take out of this article?
Well, pretty much the same thing you did. That it's kind of it's a roadmap to running the scientific method and kind of And what I've noticed about a lot of articles in the previous week and this week are that they're trying to make us more comfortable as scientists, kind of taking away the scary parts.
Yeah. So by the scientific method, you mean hypothesize, investigate,
predict,
find evidence. Yeah.
Science should be fun, and it's something that we should do.
And that's the whole point about using the lemon as a battery. It's trying to show kids, it's trying to show them that a battery is, can be made from pretty much anything. You can make it from an onion as well.
Yeah.
So that was the beautiful thing we talk about inquiry-based learning, is that Partridge article mentions that the kids went off on their own and decided to test it with different wires, different citrus fruits. They used different volts of lights. I think giving kids that independence to go out and inquire on their own seems to lead to deeper understanding.
The higher level thinking skills.
Yeah, Bloom's taxonomy.
Yes,
exactly right.
Bringing it up like at a low level science class, they'll just learn by rote. Which, as I'm going to mention in mine, we're going to talk about understanding as being a really important keystone. So.
My favourite quote is the fact here that the American public had little or no understanding of science really works. So this lack of understanding is partially attributed to the fact that teaching and textbooks have almost entirely dedicated to factual information. So by using a narrative base, it seems like what these people are talking about is that children can interact with it on a different level rather than rote learning.
Like bringing up, using literature, some kind of scientific literature, which is in, like a characterised form, can then lead into other learning opportunities or something like that.
It links back to Bloom as well, talking about rote learning versus deeper understanding.
That's right.
And it's also a good way to, it's not saying specifically just use narratives, but you can use narratives along with the science textbook. So
that's right.
You have something talking about a particular animal, an anthropomorphized, human-like animal, and they go and do stuff, and then you show a science book that has that same animal, and they have both of those sides of it, plus the skills you learn, predicting, inference, all these things are applicable throughout both of them.
Yeah, through literacy.
Yeah.
And science. So, the only problem that I have with this article is that I feel like we just keep we keep going to that children's literature as just seems to be the go-to.
All right.
To get this thinking started, and I just wonder if there's different methods.
Well, the danger is obviously that we're dealing with a diverse range of learners, and kids who are strong with literacy will respond to a method like that really well, but kinesthetic learners, auditory learners, tactile learners, learners for whom English isn't even a first language,
Yeah.
they would obviously really struggle.
Yeah.
So it can't be a sort of a one-size-fits-all
No,
strategy.
And that's kind of a danger of those kind of books, is that a teacher might start relying on them and start doing them instead of trying something new. For example, we're talking about this lemon battery. Well, take both of those together.
Yes.
And you got, like, to get a narrative about kids making a lemon battery, and then make one. You know, like
Yeah, that's
alone,
right.
it's garbage.
Yes.
You need it to be part of something else.
That's right. So my resource in relation to this article, I would not use a children's book. I would use a narrative, real life story such as a film, like March of the Penguins, because it shows the journey of the penguin, yet it is a story. So I think, kids that are, story-minded or like a narrative can relate to it, and it's still based in reality.
Okay.
Yeah, so it explains and explores real, absolute science in nature, but also happens to have a narrative.
Yeah, that's right.
Sounds like the best of both worlds.
The topic of relevance to the primary schools here is all about physics. It's to do with gravitational pull and specifically push, pull, mass and weight, and it's differentiating between them. Basically, the unit, this piece of work hooks back to one of the Australian standards, ACSSU 076, which is forces can be exerted by one object on another through direct contact or from a distance.
So that's level 4
Level
science
4
curriculum?
science curriculum,
Yep.
science fund. The resource that I decided to give was from the Primary Connections. They've got a series of books which are available off the internet. You can purchase them. I think mainly the article is designed to be a precursor for the teacher. So they read this first, so then when they go and do the activity, they've got some understanding behind it. Otherwise,
Like all the background.
Yeah,
Because like all the, what I found there was that it was all about getting you ready.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like give you.
Yeah.
Like that was Cole's notes, understanding of physics.
Yeah,
Kind
yeah,
of.
yeah.
So like, it gave you the stuff you needed to answer questions.
Yeah, and it was quite informative. It was
Yeah,
good.
I really
It
enjoyed
was.
reading it. I just
Yeah.
feel if we're gonna be taking that into a classroom, it wouldn't be effective.
Yeah.
My favourite quote from there, though, is probably Newton's second law. It's a bit nerdy, but a force causes a mass to accelerate in the direction of that force, and the greater the mass of the object, the more force is required to produce the same acceleration. So that just goes on about, it's pretty, self-conclusive.
So if you were to reword that with your toy car lesson example,
Sure.
that would probably be a great way of
Yeah.
that would probably be a great way of introducing it.
Definitely, yeah.
What I like about that as well is you mentioned in that experiment that the kids have to try and understand why the car stops moving.
Yeah.
That seems to be, again, back to the lemon experiment and the experiment that Joey will talk about in a few minutes, that seems to promote that inquiry-based learning.
Basically, the idea was to go and get children interested in a concept, and it's this is applicable to our final assignment, but it's creating a field trip based on their science.
Yes.
And so in this one, they were talking about the water bugs and pollution and all that. So they got the students interested in the problem. They put them into expert groups where the teacher was a facilitator, not
Yes.
the person to do it. The students had, actually to me, I almost feel like an obscene amount of control over what they were doing. They were deciding projects that they were going to do, what kind of food they were going to bring. They decided activities they were going to do while they were there. Like, all the onus was in the students. My favorite quote from it, and I feel it's applicable to everything that we've talked about so far, is an important feature of the classroom community was the collective goal of understanding as a key motivator driving the students' activities. That just goes to say, it wasn't about rote learning. It was about understanding what they were talking about and learning the skills they needed to do other things. We talked about it as the narrative. It's just a different way for
Yes.
them to understand the information.
Yeah, but at the same time, with using a children's book and then streaming everything off that text, and then them doing experiments like the lemon battery, they go home, that they create a learning community. It's integrated. It touches on not just the science. It touches on a whole range of other things.
Social sciences,
Social
humanities.
sciences.
No,
Plus, you know, being learning the skills to that they're going to need as they grow older.
All right. Well, key messages. I think we can all agree are going to be becoming comfortable as scientists.
Yeah.
Inquiry-based learning.
Mm-hmm.
This is fun. We'll just developing confidence in the students is important.
Yeah, definitely.
Those two, becoming scientists, becoming comfortable as scientists, getting confident students. Yeah.
Having real-world examples with it, and they can then engage with science.
Exactly.
Otherwise, these textbooks are just meaningless.
Well, that community one was all about getting them into the real world.
Yeah.
And just
Empowerment.
Yeah.
The word
Whoa.
empowering them to complete it, because that's huge. Because if they only think about science when they're in the science class, they're not going to take very much out of it. But if they look outside, see a green leaf, and think photosynthesis, you've done your job. Or
That's right.
Yeah.
fostering that feeling, and like say, I think it'd be a good idea in a class to just encourage kids to come in with a question. Say like, okay, once,
What do you want to know more about?
yeah, what would you like to know? And like pick a name out of a hat. Say, all right, for this class, you pick. What do you want to know more about? Tell me the day before so I can find out, and I'll give you something. And just encourage them to just...
Yeah, it's definitely about fostering critical thinking within the child.
And curiosity.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing about science is critical thinking.
Yeah.
It's being able to think for yourself.
Yeah.